Hello, and thank you for taking the time to dial into Edie's Susty Talks, our short but sweet one-on-one interviews with sustainability leaders from across the world, specialising in a variety of different topics designed to keep us all a bit more informed and connected, even if we're pressed for time. And it's great today to be talking to Matt Ryan, who is the regeneration lead at Nestle UK and Ireland on all things regenerative farming. Matt, thank you so much for your time. How are you doing today?
Very well, thanks. Thanks very much for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. Whereabouts are you dialing in from? I'm gathering from the grey weather that you're in the UK at the moment, like me.
Yeah, in the very not sunny Midlands. Just looking out over my vegetable garden that's struggling to grow a little bit this year, but I'm hoping for a bit of warmer weather coming up soon.
Yeah, aren't we all? So it would be great just to start with to hear a little about your role at Nestle and about what your key priorities in your work are at the moment.
Sure. Yeah. So my role is as regeneration lead for Nestle UK and Ireland. So focusing on our sourcing and operations in the UK and Ireland specifically. The role was created a couple of years ago, 2022. I guess in response to the fact that we really do need to move quite quickly towards our regenerative agriculture commitments that we've publicly made in the last couple of years as a really core pillar of our net zero roadmap. So committing ourselves to a 20% greenhouse gas reduction by 2025 and a 50% reduction by 2030. Those targets, there's a parallel target for how we source our ingredients as well. So regenerative agriculture, we are committed to sourcing 20% of our ingredients through regenerative agriculture practices by 2025 and 50% by 2030. So intentionally very, very similar targets. And with that, obviously, it was a new field for the business, and now we're really recognizing the need to scale up our internal resources to help us to achieve those targets.
Great, and I think that everyone knows a little bit about basically what regenerative agriculture seeks to do. It's about restoring soils, restoring biodiversity, reducing emissions, but I know there's not one set definition of what regenerative is. So how do you and your team define what regenerative is and measure how regenerative something is?
Yeah, so exactly right. And I think not having a definition is potentially a good thing, but also for businesses like ours that have made commitments to sourcing regeneratively, it can lead to some confusion. And we are seeking, I guess, not necessarily a strict definition, but some form of harmonization across the industry so that we're all measuring and aiming towards the same kinds of objectives and outcomes. But to summarize it, really, my view is that we're producing food in a way that's in harmony with nature, that's using all of the tools that we have to improve soil health, while also promoting biodiversity, safeguarding water resources, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which is a fundamental need for us globally. So really focusing on producing food in a way that has the lowest possible environmental impact or negative environmental impact, but maximizing the positive environmental impacts that we can generate from these types of practices as well.
And I know that what is regenerative and what will work varies from ingredient to ingredient and region to region. So could we maybe look a bit more what that looks like in the UK and Ireland? So what sort of ingredients are you focusing on, and what does regenerative look like for these ingredients?
Sure. So in the UK and Ireland, we've got 12 operating factories. So we're producing a range of different products, and as you probably know, and your listeners are probably aware, we produce a lot of different products globally. So there's around 2,000 brands that are part of the Nestle portfolio, but specifically in the UK and Ireland, the 12 factories are producing anything from pet food to confectionery to coffee beverages to infant nutrition products. So it's still quite a broad range of products that are produced here. Now, as you can imagine, not everything that is produced in the UK is sourced from the UK. So we're not growing any coffee or cocoa on these islands. So within my remit specifically, and what we're focusing on in terms of UK and Ireland production is largely around fresh milk, so dairy products that are going into our confectionery and coffee businesses. Wheat, again, won't come as any surprise. There's a huge amount of arable production in the UK, and We're very dependent on UK agriculture for our breakfast cereal business, but also for confectionery and for pet care as well. And the third main commodity that we're looking at as well is sugar. So they're the top three, but we've got really well-established programs in the UK focusing on fresh milk. We have a long partnership with our fresh milk supplier, which is First Milk, who have developed what we call the milk plan, which is now in the last few years evolved to become the regenerative milk plan, which is going from something that was primarily focused around making farms more sustainable and improving their sustainability metrics to going really to the next step and seeing how we can start to generate regenerative outcomes on those farms as well. So as part of that, there are 85 farms across Cumbria and southwest Scotland that are part of the program, and we're really wanting to incentivize regenerative outcomes through paying a price premium for milk that's provided to us that has been produced in a particular way. Now, that program is obviously very strongly focused on the environmental outcomes, so greenhouse gas emissions, of course, but we're also making sure that we're not being too blinkered by focusing specifically on one or two metrics. So that program in particular is really strong on the social indicators as well. And when we think about regenerative, we need to think about holistic outcomes and not focusing just on one or two particular things, but on the livelihoods of the farmers and the communities that are producing these products for us as well. So there's a really strong focus on women in agriculture, on ensuring that local schools have the opportunity to go to farms, see how food is produced, and make sure that we've got the next generation of farmers coming through that can continue to produce these products that we need to keep our factories running. So it really is a very holistic program that we've built together with First Milk, and as we go into the next few years, we're going to see the project continue to evolve. We're doing things slightly differently when it comes to cereals and arable production. So we've kicked off with a sustainability consultancy called 3 Keel, a program called LENS, so Landscape Enterprise Networks. Now, it's a program that is specifically looking to get other businesses to join with us to share the costs and the risks of transforming these landscapes. So primarily focused on the east of England and Yorkshire at the moment, but looking to co-fund farms to become more regenerative and to basically find ways to work together, basically, because in landscapes like that, it's too big of a job for one business to take the weight of a full transformation. And we know that for things like wheat and barley, there are always crops in rotation on these farms. So that immediately means there's opportunities to share the costs with some of the other off-takers from those farms as well. So two very different approaches that we're taking, but we're starting to scale these programs up quite well. And I think in the future years, we're going to see them grow even more.
Very exciting stuff. And you've mentioned there that there's a couple of challenges to scaling regenerative to do with size, and I think you also touched on the need for farmers to see a price premium and to raise the investment to do this. So in your work, Matt, what have been your learnings on engaging with farmers? What are their biggest barriers? What are they, real barriers? Are they perceived barriers? And how can you help them through that transition?
Yeah, so there are many barriers, and I think a lot of it is actually down to sort of almost a language barrier and understanding. We in sustainability, we tend to talk in acronyms and themes that aren't necessarily immediately familiar or comfortable to farmers. So I think making sure that we're all speaking the same language first and foremost is really important, and what farmers really need to see and need to understand is that we're in this for the long term. Trust is just as important a currency as money to farmers, and ensuring that they can rely on us being involved in these programs for many years is really critical. And I think once that level of trust is built up, then we can start to get things moving. But that is hard work. I'll be honest, and making sure that we've got those relationships with leading farmers that are actually able to do a lot of that advocacy on our behalf is really important too. Of course, there is the financial barrier that we need to support with as well, and of course we've made major financial commitments globally to help kickstart the transition to regenerative agriculture. So 1.2 billion Swiss francs between 2021 and 2025. So in pounds, I think that will be about 1.1 billion pounds that the business is committed to spending. But how that is, as you mentioned, how that's sort of fed into the landscape and to farmers is going to be different from place to place. So having a one size fits all approach that's going to work in East Anglia and even East Anglia and Cumbria is going to be not possible. But then you think about the fact that we're sourcing in Brazil, in the US, in West Africa, you need to ensure that these projects are as suitable for the specific locations that you're working in as possible, and are actually corresponding to the needs of the farmers. So so that we're not proposing things that are not needed, and that the funding is going towards things that are going to genuinely support farmers and not just to help us hit our targets. So I think that there is still a lot of work to be done to bridge that understanding gap, and I think that we recognize the need to get out there, have those honest discussions with farmers and through our partners and suppliers, and make sure that we've built this trust and that we're in it for the long haul, and they can continue to rely on us being there. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, of course, and we've talked, Matt, about a few really interesting kind of partnerships. So with farmers, with the organisations that know about those local contexts, with other businesses through the work with 3Keel on sourcing. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about the work that's going on inside Nestle to join this up, because I'm hoping that it's not just you working on it, and I'm hoping that this is a big focus for the procurement teams and that there's a wider sustainability team focusing on this as well. So what's going on internally as you work towards these goals this next decade?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, there's a major transformation happening within our business as well to respond to the challenges that we're facing as a business, and it's not just about targets. Let's be really clear about that. Of course, we've made these commitments, but these commitments haven't come out of nowhere. It's because the climate is changing. We've got pretty serious resilience risks that we're facing into in a number of different places. So in response to that, there is a lot more roles similar to mine that are being created in each of the markets, the governance and organization and connections that the likes of myself and our team have with our global procurement teams and our local procurement teams are becoming much stronger. It won't surprise you or your listeners to understand that, to hear that we've got quite a complex structure as an organization. There are lots and lots of different teams doing different things in different parts of the world, and so trying to simplify the process, the reporting lines, the steering committees, all of this has been and is still quite a big task, but certainly procurement is where the serious business of choosing suppliers and making these decisions to help us hit the targets and increase our resilience is really the main thing. So as a market, we've created a local steering group which links all of the different functions of the business together. So all of the business units such as confectionery, coffee, Nestle Waters, all will have a representative there. We have all of the corporate functions, so legal, finance, communications are all represented, so that we're trying to break down the silos as much as we possibly can, but also find ways that other parts of the Nestle business can actually collaborate together, because each of these businesses is a multi-billion-pound business in its own right. So figuring out how we can be more efficient, in addition to working with external partners and other businesses, is going to be really important, because it's a big agenda that we're working on. The path is quite bumpy and unclear at the moment. So yeah, we've got to make sure that we're all aligned internally as well as externally.
Yeah, I'm sure that in that sort of situation you need as much knowledge sharing as possible. And on that note, Matt, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with me today. It's been great to learn more about the project and about your work. So thank you so much for your time and for your insight on this episode of Susty Talks.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.